Welcome back, everyone, to our modern day mystery school. Our topic today, we are revisiting this, is symbolism is the language of the mystery teachings. I love you, UC crew. UC, of course, standing for Unfolding Consciousness, Exploring the Living Universe, and the Intelligent Powers in Nature and Humans. This is a 1,000-page, 4-volume work, some 20 years in the making, birthed by the dedicated, passionate, compassionate and humble Dr. Eddie Bilimoria. Oh my God. The ebooks are out. They are finally out. There was a little bit of lag when we said they were going to be out at the beginning of the month. They're now out now, and they're being uploaded to the global markets. They finally hit. But I tell you what, I'm going to include the Amazon UK link down below, as well as the Apple link. And just keep your eyes peeled. They're only $24.99 in most local currencies for all 4 volumes. That is a long time coming. Audiobooks, condensed versions, study guides, and so much more on the way as well. And if you'd like to skip ahead and skip my preamble, go directly to the reading of the book, please click the blue timestamp down below. We are on book study number 40, and I'm going to aim for 52 episodes. I don't know if this is the right way to do them, but we're going to give it a year. So 52 episodes coming. We have some new exciting additions coming to the Living Theosophy repertoire. So keep your eyes peeled. And remember, you get 25% off the 4-volume hardback set. If you want to get that for yourself, for a library or friend for Christmas, just type in "I want my copy!" when you purchase from the Shepherd Walwyn website. The link is down below. And a quick question, and thank you. Some of you did answer me last week. What are your thoughts on meditation for learning? What are your thoughts on meditation? What are your meditation practices? Anything you can throw up there will help me do my research. I'm working on some new things here for the Living Theosophy channel. So, how do you feel about guided and recorded meditations? And today we dive further into Volume 3. We have been here before, but we're going deeper. This is Gazing Through the Telescope. Man is the measure of all things. Our subject today is very interesting. Symbolism is the language of the mystery teachings. Now, we touched on this. We are going deeper, and you can always repeat these lessons. Just listen to them, because you learn new things every time you hear them. Our yellow post-it study notes for today are: figurative language unlocks hidden layers of meaning. Proverbs and parables, allegories, similes, and metaphors. They're all different, distinguishing models, similes, and metaphors from reality, analogies, symbols, and icons, and the justification for oral transmission of the teachings. So let's begin. William Q. Judge said, "A symbol, to be properly so called a symbol, must be contained in the idea or ideas which it is intended to represent." So, as a symbol of a house could never be the prow of a boat or the wing of a bird, but it must be contained somewhere in the form of the house itself. That is, it must be an actual part chosen to represent or stand for the whole. It need not be the whole thing, but it may be a lower form or species used as the representative of a higher of the same kind. Now, the word symbol is derived from the Greek words meaning to throw with, that is, to throw together. To be a just and correct symbol, it should be such as that the moment it is seen by one versed in symbolism, and its meaning should become apparent easily. Manly P. Hall says, "Every visible object, every abstract thought, every emotional reaction is but the symbol of an eternal principle. Every form is a symbol, and every symbol the tomb of an eternal verity." And verity means truth. Through education, spiritual, mental, moral, and physical, man will learn to release living truths from their lifeless coverings. In this chapter, Chapter 1, Volume 3, we will cover symbolism, one of the universal keys to wisdom and the expression of the mystery teachings. As this is a subject that abounds in lots of misunderstandings, misconceptions, bewilderment, Eddie commences here with a clear statement about the subtle differences, and there are subtle differences, of meaning between the terms used in figurative language. For example, symbols, allegories, stay with me here, and similes, okay? Thereafter, we show how universal symbols like the labyrinth, the forest, the philosopher's stone, and a few others reveal the inner nature of man and his evolution when the meaning hidden in the symbol is exposed and finally understood. There are flies in here, excuse me about that. This chapter will also take a look at a warning about the serious perils and ghastly rituals. Really quick, I'm going to pause here. Whenever I see flies like that, I always think the Amityville Horror. Okay, anyway, hang on one second. This chapter will also take a look at a warning about the serious perils and ghastly rituals. True, because when symbols are misunderstood and they're literally interpreted, or rather blatantly misinterpreted, things like animal sacrifice and things like that can happen. So we're going to go into that. Why is the literature of religion, esoteric philosophy, and occultism inundated with figurative language? Why? For the simple reason that ordinary language, wedded to a linear intellectual mode of thought, which is perfect for conveying precise information, objective facts, and scientific theories, it's a very poor medium for conveying the subjective realms of experience. This is so true, of experience and deep truths that are literal, beyond words, and above reasoning. It's true. How can you say that? How can you put that into words? Resorting to parables and allegories and metaphors and similes, and above all symbols and analogies, is the only means of unlocking the meaning behind what is in truth indescribable. Thank you, Eddie. Although there is considerable overlap in the nature of these figurative language forms, there are also important distinctions, particularly in the function they perform, which is important to outline while avoiding dreary, dry, boring theory and practice. So let's get into the clarity of meaning. Okay, we're going to divide these up. Eddie divides them up. Let's go. A proverb, which means words put forth, is a short and sweet saying in common use, held to embody a general truth. By contrast, a parable, which means drawing analogies, that's what parable means, is a short narrative of imagined events intended to illustrate a moral or a spiritual lesson. It differs from a fable in that fables employ animals and plants and inanimate objects or forces of nature as character, but parables have human characters. Okay? An example of a parable from the Bible is, "For a good tree does not bear bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. For every tree is known by its fruit. For men do not gather figs from thorns," meaning to make the point that a man's deeds, okay, his character, rather than his outwardly spoken words, provide the truest test of who he is. A corrupt character is unlikely to perform noble deeds. We all know that. The basic danger with interpreting parables, as with all figurative language forms, okay, there is danger, is mistaking their function and context. We do that to the best of our ability, but that's not okay sometimes. Too much can be read into the specific details of the story at the expense of the response it is intended to obtain and the meaning it is intended to convey. All right, you know the game of telephone? Same thing. Parables, then, are the general means of conveying the esoteric meaning in exoteric language, therefore to be understood and told to the masses. So remember, esoteric means not so commonly known. Exoteric means commonly known. Okay. However, that does not mean that so-called common people do not have eyes to see and ears to hear, and therefore that parables cannot be understood at many different levels. They can. An allegory, which literally means speaking otherwise, that's what the word allegory means speaking otherwise, conveys truth by representing an abstract or a spiritual meaning through concrete or material forms. The subject is treated in the appearance of the narrative of another, such as in a play, or maybe a poem, or a story. For example, the legend of the Minotaur in Crete, okay? The Minotaur is an allegorical depiction of an unbridled carnal passion that is in man under the guise of a mythological creature with the head of a bull, so the mind of an animal, but the body of a man, described by the Roman poet Ovid as being part man and part bull. That makes sense. We can see that. Regarding similes, the emphasis is to aid the understanding of a subject by using the words like or as to compare and contrast something, okay? So the subject is compared to something else. But, and this is where it gets confusing, Eddie explains here, a metaphor is similar to a simile, but it compares the subject to something. So a simile compares the similarities, while a metaphor compares the subject to something else. Stay with me. Without an explanation. So the metaphor doesn't give you an explanation. The comparison is implied or stated directly. I know. Stay here. In both cases, a descriptive term is applied in the imaginative but not the literal sense. An example of a widely accepted simile in mainstream neuroscience nowadays is the brain is like a computer. The equivalent metaphor would be to refer to the brain as a wet computer. There are subtle differences here. A more meaningful simile from classical science comes from the English chemist, physicist, and meteorologist John Dalton, whose model of atoms was solid, indestructible units, somewhat like billiard balls. Now, we've talked about this before. Billiard ball atoms would be ridiculous. It's a ridiculous metaphor. But to state that atoms behave like billiard balls gives you an idea and is a meaningful simile. Note, however, that neither similes nor metaphors are models, because models, the original meaning of the word models, comes from measure. It is a representation of the real thing in terms of a theoretical or mathematical or physical replica, like drawings or plans or structures. So a model is constructed, therefore, to represent and present those characteristics of the performance of real things that interest us. Okay? Whew. But it is obvious that a model is not an exact replica. So a model is always limited in one way or another and can never be an accurate substitute for the real thing in itself. All this may be obvious, okay? But Eddie is laboring the point really, really hard here, and we're revisiting it because just as a metaphor is sometimes confused with a model is often confused with the reality that it is intended to represent. For example, the map is frequently confused with the territory. Now, again, we have covered this in previous book studies, but let us pay attention, okay? We come now to the most significant forms of figurative languages used in the esoteric teachings and occultism. Analogies and symbols. That's how they've been passed down through the millennia. In an analogy, there is a correspondence, meaning a correlation or a partial similarity between two or more things. They are related by a common principle. A symbol is something such as a figure or a character or a picture is regarded as representing something else, especially in the nature of an idea or a quality. Musical notes and the letters that stand for the chemical elements are obvious examples. However, there is a deeper, come with me, a deeper aspect to consider. Symbolism is a pictorial representation of an idea or a thought. Ancient or primordial writing initially didn't have characters like we have now. How did they get this information to future generations? Okay, a symbol generally stood for a whole phrase or a sentence, and a symbol is therefore a recorded parable. As HPB explains, and a parable is a spoken symbol. The Egyptian hieroglyphic picture writing and the Chinese written language are examples of symbolic writing. For the student of the mystery teachings, that's you, symbols are a most powerful means of unlocking hidden depths of meaning and releasing intuition. Again, for the student of the mystery teachings, that's you. Symbols are a most powerful means of unlocking hidden depths of meaning and releasing intuition. The reason for this is that the meaning attached to a symbol may be taken and understood at many levels: physical, intellectual, spiritual, and what is revealed is entirely dependent on the context and, crucially, the degree of awakened intuition of the seeker. It's true. The higher your consciousness in here, the more you will understand. That's why when you revisit these lessons, you will learn something new. Okay, we may want to understand, but we won't until we have matched the level by working to raise our own consciousness, which means working on ourselves. This is not an intellectual or academic or achieved through status or time. This can't be done that way. It is earned through hard work alone on yourself. One such example of a powerful symbol is the Ouroboros. Okay, hope I'm saying that right. The self-eating snake, the Ouroboros. You know what I'm talking about. You're familiar with them. If you've seen the Theosophical Society logo, Ouroboros, okay? He's a snake that's eating his own tail. Okay, the basic idea is that the constant regeneration and eternal cyclicity through the renewal of forms. Snake sheds its skin, it's eating itself, it's a circle. However, there are many hidden layers of meaning. For example, in psychology, Carl Jung interpreted the Ouroboros as having an archetypal significance to the human psyche. And the German Jungian psychologist Erich Neumann writes of Ouroboros as a representation of the pre-ego dawn. Okay, this is the pre-ego dawn state. I'm putting up a picture here so you could see. Depicting the undifferentiated infancy experience, both of mankind and the individual child. Now, I love this man. I met him at the launch of Unfolding Consciousness. He is a phenomenal fellow, Bernard Carr. He's a British professor of mathematics and astronomy at Queen Mary University of London. Love him and his work. He interprets the cosmic Ouroboros as depicting the hierarchy of scales from the largest, as in the cosmos and cosmology, to the smallest, as in quantum theory. And that's their interconnection, which we are all part of. The whole entire thing. Okay? That's the discoveries of modern physics, a triumph involving not only the objects, but also all the forces in the universe. However, Bernard also states candidly that the missing element in Ouroboros is the mind. Hence, a complete theory must move from the matter-centric standpoint of current physics towards a more extended form of physics, which includes mind and consciousness, and perhaps entails higher dimensions of reality. Note, however, that symbols are not the same as icons, okay? An icon, such as the print image on your printer, your word processor, has a mixed meaning, but a symbol applies at many levels and unfolds a multi-layered meaning. While the greatest minds of the Jewish and Christian worlds have realized that the Bible is a book of allegories, very few seem to have taken the trouble to investigate its symbols and parables. And that's what we need to do. That's what you're here for. When Moses instituted his mysteries, it is said he gave a chosen few initiates certain oral teachings which could never be written out. They can't be written down in anything, but they were to be preserved from one generation to the next solely by word of mouth. Those instructions were in the form of philosophical keys, by which the allegories were made to reveal their hidden significance. The mystic keys to their sacred writings were called by the Jews the Kabbalah, also known as the Kabbalah, and the modern world, says Manly P. Hall, seems to have forgotten the existence of those unwritten teachings which explained satisfactorily the apparent contradictions in the written scriptures. Nor does it remember that the pagans appointed their two-faced Janus as custodian of the key to the temple of wisdom. Janus has been metamorphosized into St. Peter, so often symbolized as holding in his hand the key to the gate of heaven. The gold and silver keys of God's vicar on earth, the Pope, symbolize this secret doctrine, which, when properly understood, unlocks the treasure chest of the Christian and Jewish Kabbalah. I love it. I love it. There's nothing more important for us to do. Thank you so much, Eddie Bilimoria, Dr. Eddie Bilimoria, for putting all of this down on paper so we can have it digitally now. It's available in ebook, all 4 volumes, $24.99. In most local currencies, American US dollar, British pound. That is available online now on Amazon and on Apple, and I believe anywhere you can get your ebooks. They're still loading, so they're hitting all of the outlets. So anyway, I'll put some links down below for what is available in these future studies. Unfolding Consciousness, Exploring the Living Universe and the Intelligent Powers in Nature and Humans. We do these book studies every Sunday. We're going to do them for a whole year together. This is 40. We have 12 more, and there's lots more ways we're going to be studying the ancient teachings here and Unfolding Consciousness on living Theosophy. You matter. You mean so much. I am showing up for you. I don't care if these only have 3 views. If you're here, you're meant to be here. And if you've gotten this far, thank you, because you get it. Take these teachings out into the world, apply them, learn them, live them. Take a look at yourself. I talk about it, I was telling my husband about a scan. It's like a scan. You're running a scan all the time through you. How can you become a better person? Your thoughts, your actions, your deeds, your reactions, all of that. It's like a scan. You're self-analyzing, which will lead to self-transformation, which in turn can change the world. These teachings are instructions for living. And they're not just coming from Eddie. He's put them down into a book. These have been around since the beginning of time. This is a fantastic collection, but they're free and they're available to all. And I love you. And I'll see you next week.